Imagine a commercial building at 6:30 on a Tuesday evening. The lights are on, the elevators are moving, a tenant is outside with a visitor, and a maintenance worker is waiting to begin a scheduled inspection. Then the access control connection to the central platform disappears. One person can enter the lobby, but not the shared office area. Nobody is sure whether that is expected behavior, a temporary problem, or the first sign of something larger. The question is not just, can the door open? It is, what should this building do now?
And the building can look perfectly normal while the risk is already growing. What breaks if this goes down? Maybe access is inconsistent. Maybe monitoring is limited. Maybe the people who are supposed to make the next decision cannot tell whether the problem is local or widespread.
Right. From the facility side, the first call is usually much simpler. Can you get people through the doors? But if the answer depends on an undocumented assumption, the person on duty is being asked to solve a design decision in real time. Technology should support operations, not complicate them.
That is the idea we are going to stay with today. If your team cannot predict what the doors will do or who decides what happens next, you do not really have resilient access control. You have an assumption. Welcome to Built, Wired, and Secured. I'm Alex Morgan, and joining me are Michael Harrington, who works in commercial property and building operations, and James Rogers, a facilities and reliability leader. Thanks for being here.
Glad to be here, Alex.
Good to be here. This is one of those subjects that sounds technical until the first person is standing at a door, waiting for an answer.
Before we get into choices like fail-safe or fail-secure, we should set a boundary. There is no universal answer for every opening, occupancy type, or local requirement. We are talking about operational decision-making. Site-specific safety, code, and security questions belong with qualified professionals who understand the building.
That boundary is important because people use the word failure as though it describes one condition. It does not. A complete power loss is different from a network interruption. A network interruption is different from losing the central platform. And the technology can be available while the trained person who knows the response is unavailable.
Wait, so a network outage can look normal at the door?
It can. A local component may continue making decisions while the central team loses visibility, or the door may behave normally for a while and then expose a different limitation. That is why we tested it during an outage is not enough. What kind of outage? For how long? Who was trying to enter, exit, or receive a visitor?
And is that distinction visible to the person standing at the door?
Or do they just see a credential that works in one place and not another?
Exactly. And the building can create false confidence. A backup source may keep part of the system running, so everyone assumes the problem is minor. Then a supporting dependency reaches its limit, or a communications path remains unavailable, and the behavior changes. Reliability starts with disciplined maintenance, because you cannot make a good continuity decision around equipment nobody has verified recently.
That is the part people miss. They look at the door and ask whether it opened, but the more important question may be whether the building still knows what happened.
Yes. If the central view is unavailable, security may have less information. Facilities may be asked to make decisions outside their usual role, and property leadership may not know whether one area or the whole site is affected. Tenants feel this immediately. A short technology outage can become a coordination outage.
So when people hear fail-safe and fail-secure, those labels do not settle the decision.
No. They describe different outcomes, not a universal prescription. In one circumstance, preserving movement may be the priority. In another, maintaining controlled access may be the priority. The decision has to account for occupants, emergency coordination, business operations, and the responsibilities of the people responding.
I agree with the principle, but I am not sure I buy the idea that documenting the intended outcome is the hard part. Most organizations already have a document somewhere. The hard part is whether anyone can find it and use it at 10:30 at night when a worker is waiting and a tenant is calling.
I would push back a little. If the outcome is not documented, the response becomes personal judgment. and that is risky. A procedure cannot replace the decision about priorities.
Fair. I am not arguing against the document. I am arguing against treating the document as proof that the plan is real.
That is fair. From an operational standpoint, the document and the practiced response have to match.
There it is. The choice is not simply which mode a door should use. It is what outcome the organization intends, who can authorize a temporary change, and whether the people on duty can recognize and manage that outcome.
Exactly. Put it in operational language. During a particular interruption, people must be able to leave. Authorized work may need to continue. Certain activity may pause, and someone must know when the condition is escalating. The system is resilient is not an instruction.
Let's test that with the after-hours situation. A few tenants are still working. A maintenance employee arrives with approval in an email, but the usual system cannot verify it. The tenant can enter the lobby, but cannot reach the shared office area. The central platform is unavailable, while local power remains. What happens first?
First, stop pretending the email is a complete answer. Someone needs to confirm who approved the visit, whether that person is reachable, and whether the planned work should continue under the current condition. The maintenance employee should not have to invent a process at the entrance.
And someone has to establish what is actually known. Is the platform unavailable to everyone, or only to the monitoring team? Are events still being recorded somewhere? Are the doors following the documented fallback condition? Is a staffed response available? Without those answers, people begin improvising.
And improvisation is where accountability gets blurry. I would keep the maintenance visit moving if the responsible team can verify the authorization and provide a controlled, time-limited process. Otherwise, pause it. Keeping the schedule is useful, but not if nobody can explain who was there or why.
I agree with the principle, but keep it moving needs care. If the temporary process is not pre-authorized, the most available person may make a security decision simply because they are holding the phone.
Then the answer is not to leave everyone guessing. It is to pre-authorize the narrow situation. Who verifies, who escorts if needed, how long the exception lasts, and what gets recorded afterward.
That is a useful reconciliation. Do not make the frontline person choose between continuity and control. Decide the boundaries before the outage. Then make the temporary response visible.
And communicate at the right level. The tenant does not need a technical incident report in the first message. They need to know what is affected, what they should do, whether normal work can continue, and when the next update will come. Vague silence creates more disruption than a clear, limited message.
Exactly, and it compounds fast. The maintenance worker is waiting, the tenant is asking for access, security is trying to understand what it can see, and facilities is being asked whether the building is safe to operate. Those are different questions, but the outage has put them in the same conversation.
What handoff breaks first?
Usually the handoff between detection and interpretation. Someone knows a service is unavailable, but nobody has translated that into, here is what the building is doing right now. Then, facilities and security may each understand half the picture and assume the other team has the rest.
That is why I use a simple rhythm. Confirm the condition, protect the priority outcomes, communicate the temporary process, and set a time to reassess. The response can be small for a brief interruption. It has to become more deliberate when the interruption lasts or the impact spreads.
And restoration is not the same as recovery.
Right. A service can come back, and the building can still be operating under yesterday's exception. Someone may still be checking people manually. A temporary instruction may still be circulating. The team needs to confirm that expected access behavior has returned, that the available records are sufficient for follow-up, and that nobody is relying on a workaround that is no longer needed. Preventative maintenance beats emergency repairs every time, and recovery checks are part of that discipline.
What breaks if this goes down? Ask it across teams, not just of the technology owner. Security may lose visibility. Facilities may need to inspect a supporting service. IT may be managing the connectivity issue. Property management may need to explain the impact to tenants. All of those answers can be true at the same time.
So how do teams test this without exposing a sensitive layout or turning the exercise into a technical configuration review?
Use a tabletop. Give the group one plain scenario. It is after hours, the central platform is unavailable, one tenant needs access, and a scheduled maintenance visit is already underway. Then ask people to talk through the next 15 minutes. Who calls whom? What can continue? What pauses? What message goes out? The pauses reveal the missing ownership.
I would add one question. Who can authorize a temporary change? Not who is generally responsible, but who has the authority in that moment. If that answer is unclear, the plan is not ready.
And the third question is probably the one teams skip. How do we know we are recovered?
Exactly. Not because a screen turned green, but because the people responsible have confirmed the expected behavior, ended any temporary process, and know what information needs follow-up. Trust the process, but make sure the process has been practiced.
If someone schedules a 30-minute review next week, I would start with 3 questions. What must keep working? Who decides when the normal process is unavailable? And how will we prove that recovery is complete? The answers should cover occupants, authorized workers, emergency coordination, communications, and the teams responsible for the building.
Also separate the scenarios. Power loss, network loss, central platform loss, and staffing disruption may produce different consequences. Tenants feel this immediately when a team treats them as one generic outage.
Then verify the evidence. Are backup dependencies maintained? Are the procedures current? Does the next shift know where to find them? Has the expected behavior been observed in a controlled exercise? Reliability starts with disciplined maintenance, not a reassuring assumption.
That brings us back to the unlocking question. A resilient building is not one where every door makes the same choice during every failure. It is one where the intended choice is understood, the trade-off is deliberate, and the people operating the building have practiced what happens next. Choose one realistic access control interruption and put a cross-functional review on the calendar before the next one chooses the date for you. That wraps up this episode of Built, Wired, and Secured. Today we explored how buildings can balance security, safety, and tenant continuity when access control loses power, connectivity, or central oversight. Thanks for spending a few minutes with us. Until next time, make sure the systems you're responsible for are built to last, wired with intention, and secured for the real world.